In a small village surrounded by green hills and vast golden wheat fields lived Joe Mendez, the richest man in the region, owner of several farms, herds, and lands that stretched as far as the eye could see. He was respected by everyone. However, behind his great fortune, Joe carried a deep sadness. Years earlier, he had lost his wife and later had been cruelly deceived by someone who pretended to love him, but only wanted his wealth. Tired of falsehoods, interested looks, and superficial conversations, Joe made a courageous decision. He stored his fine clothes, put on old and worn boots, saddled a simple horse, and went down to the village without telling anyone his real name or position. He introduced himself only as Pedro, a humble rural worker looking for a job and a chance to start life over. He rented a small and simple house behind the church, with a dirt floor and thatched roof. During the day, he worked like any other helper on the plantations. He carried sacks of grain, repaired fences, and plowed the land under the hot sun. Few imagined that this man with calloused hands and simple clothes was the true owner of almost everything there. In the village, 3 girls stood out for their beauty and the way they dressed. The Silva sisters. They walked with elegance, laughed loudly in the squares, and dreamed of finding a rich man who could give them a comfortable life. Always well-dressed, they attracted looks wherever they went. Ana Clara, on the other hand, was the opposite. Orphaned of father and mother, she lived on the margins of society. After a severe drought destroyed the family's small vegetable garden years earlier, people began to call her cursed. They said that anyone who approached her would also have bad luck. Even so, Ana Clara never complained. She woke up early, took care alone of a small orchard behind her humble little house, planted vegetables and fruits, and still found time to help the most needy neighbors. Pedro observed everything carefully. The Silva sisters soon approached him. They brought food, offered sweet smiles, and asked questions about his past, wanting to know if he had family or some hidden inheritance. Ana Clara acted differently. She didn't ask questions. She just left a fresh, still warm loaf of bread at the door of his little house at dawn, or quietly warned him when a storm was coming. Her gestures were silent, sincere, and full of kindness. No one imagined that. Behind Pedro's simplicity, there was a wounded heart in search of a truth that money had never been able to buy. One night, the sky became black as never seen before. The air was heavy, humid, and charged with electricity. Howling winds shook the trees with fury, tearing off leaves and branches that flew like arrows. The smell of wet earth and danger filled the air. Suddenly, a fierce storm broke over the village, with torrential rain, lightning cutting through the sky in bright zigzags, and thunder so strong it made the ground shake. In just a few minutes, the river that cut through the valley overflowed with impressive violence, invading plantations, houses, and streets like an enraged monster. Desperate screams echoed everywhere. Families ran from one side to the other, trying to save small children, animals, and the little they had managed to acquire throughout life. Panic took over the entire village. Many cried while carrying improvised bundles on their heads. The Silva sisters, dressed in their best clothes, ran hurriedly to the church on top of the hill. They screamed in despair, loudly lamenting the possible loss of their fine dresses, jewelry, and furniture. Everything would be lost. Our life is over, they repeated between sobs, without helping anyone but themselves. Pedro, revealing for the first time his inner strength and natural leadership, did not hesitate for a second. With a firm and determined voice above the noise of the rain and thunder, he gathered the men of the village in the middle of the storm. We cannot stand still, waiting for destruction. Let's save what we can. Together, we are stronger than the flood. He organized human chains, distributed ropes and lanterns, and led the rescue of the nearest plantations, carrying sacks of grain and guiding animals to higher ground. In the previous weeks, Pedro had grown closer and closer to Ana Clara. They talked a lot at the end of the day, sitting near the orchard or on the porch of the simple little house. It was there, through long, sincere conversations, that he discovered her pure and true heart, her kindness without interest, and her silent strength. It was then that, in the midst of the chaos, the darkness cut only by lightning, and the rain falling like a waterfall, Pedro saw Ana Clara running in the opposite direction, toward the lower part of the village where the poorest and most vulnerable families lived. Without thinking twice, he left the main group and ran after her, his heart racing. The water was already up to their waists and rising rapidly. Ana Clara, completely soaked, with her hair stuck to her face and an expression of pure determination, carried a small child on his shoulders and pulled an elderly woman by the arm, encouraging her. "Hold on tight, Mrs. Rosa. We'll make it. I won't leave anyone behind," she shouted with a hoarse voice, but full of courage and faith. She entered the flooded houses, took out the elderly, children, and even pets, guiding everyone to a small hill nearby. Pedro immediately joined her. Together, they faced the strong current, tying ropes and creating a safety line. Suddenly, a bank collapsed with a deafening crash. A huge wave of mud, water, and branches came roaring toward them like a deadly wall. Ana Clara acted with impressive speed. She tied a strong rope between two nearby trees. Pedro dove into the icy and turbulent current, holding the rope firmly. With superhuman effort, the two worked side by side, pulling the last families to higher ground. Ana Clara was deeply injured on her arm while protecting a girl from a heavy log that was floating by, the blood mixing with the rain. But even feeling intense pain, she did not stop. She continued carrying, pulling, and encouraging everyone until the last person was safe. Meanwhile, the Silva sisters, already protected inside the church, dramatically told everyone that the poor Pedro was brave, but that he certainly would not survive the fury of the flood. At dawn, the first timid rays of sunlight crossed the gray clouds and illuminated a scene of destruction and hope. Damaged houses, plantations covered in mud, fallen trees, and flooded streets marked the village ground. Even so, the air was full of gratitude, for everyone had survived. The people, exhausted, wet, and with dark circles under their eyes from tiredness, began to gather slowly in the central square. Some carried children in their arms, others wiped their mud-stained faces, while whispers of relief echoed through the place. It was in that emotion-filled moment that Pedro, still covered in mud from head to toe and with torn clothes, climbed onto an old cart in the center of the square. All eyes turned to him. People expected him to talk about the next steps of reconstruction. With a firm but emotional voice, he began to speak. "Dear friends, my name is not Pedro. I am Joao Mendes, the true owner of the lands you have cultivated for so many years. I pretended to be a simple poor worker because my heart was wounded. Years ago, I was deceived by people who pretended to love me, but only wanted my fortune. I needed to discover who really cared about me, not what I possess." A loud murmur of surprise and shock took over the square. The Silva sisters were left speechless, their faces pale with astonishment and shame. "Ho o continued," with his eyes shining with emotion, looking directly at Ana Clara, who was with her arm bandaged and still helping to distribute water to the injured. "During these months, I observed everything in silence. I saw who approached me out of interest and who treated me with genuine sincerity. Ana Clara never asked questions about my life or my origin. She helped me with simple gestures full of kindness. A warm loaf of bread, a warning about the weather, a sincere smile. On the night of the storm, while many ran to protect themselves, she faced the fury of the waters alone to save the most fragile. Her courage, her strength, and her great heart saved many lives. She is the living proof that true wealth lies in character, not in money." Ana Clara, with tears running down her mud-stained face, could barely believe what she was hearing. Her eyes were full of surprise, emotion, and a happiness she had never imagined feeling. Joao got down from the cart with determined steps, walked up to her in front of the entire village, and held her hands with care and respect. "Ana Clara, you are the strongest, kindest, and truest woman I have ever met in my entire life. I don't want to pretend anymore. I want to build a life by your side, as equals, as true partners. Will you marry me and transform this village into an even better place, full of hope and unity, with a voice choked with emotion and a radiant smile amidst the tears. Anna Clara replied, "Yes, Joe, I accept with all my heart. I don't care if you were Pedro or the richest farmer. I fell in love with your honest heart, with your courage, and with the way you cared about people. Let's rebuild everything together." The square exploded in warm applause, shouts of joy and tears of emotion. Even the wind seemed lighter. The Silva sisters lowered their heads, ashamed, and discreetly moved away. In the following months, Joel and Ana Clara worked side by side with the entire community. They rebuilt houses, planted new seeds, helped needy families, and turned the tragedy of the flood into a story of overcoming and unity. Their love blossomed strong, true, and inspiring for the whole village. This story reminds us that true wealth is not in gold or lands, but in character, courage, and the kindness we show when no one is watching. We often judge people by appearance, by the past, or by rumors, and we miss the chance to know true gems. Be brave like Ana Clara, generosos like Ho, and, above all, true to yourself. If you liked this exciting story full of action, drama, courage, and a happy ending, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, leave your like, and share it with those who need to hear a message of hope. Turn on the bell so you don't miss the next stories. May your life be full of beautiful twists and true loves. Until next time.